What's up, everybody? It's the B.O.B., and I am here with the solo edition of Around the Table with Big Bob and the Maestro, the podcast where we talk about whatever we want. You know, wanted to talk a little bit about the worst teams from SimWorld U Season 3. Obviously, the worst of the worst don't typically get a whole lot of love. One of them is getting a little bit of love right now because they picked up a SimWorld prep coach by the name of Drayton to lead the way. People think they could go from worst to first, which kind of what I want to talk about is what team finished dead last in their conference last season that could potentially win their conference going from worst to first. Now, I will say I don't think there is any team that was in last place last season who could actually win their conference this season. So we'll just really say what team can make a little bit of noise. Starting down in the Pac-12, you had Washington finishing 3-11. This is a team like a couple of teams on this list that I just don't think they did enough to potentially even make it out of the last spot of their conference. I mean, I absolutely love Tyshawn McGrady. Big fan of him since he was in SimWorld Prep. But I mean, he averaged 12.7 points a game last season. Wasn't even number one on their team in points scored. Their top scoring returner is Latrell Bynum with 14.2 points a game. They just didn't add enough. When it came to the freshmen they brought in, J.J. Delgado, Larry McGee, Jordan Weaver, Tyler Wilson, they're not moving the needle for me at all. So I definitely don't think Washington is one of those teams, and I really think that we could see Washington uh, finishing that conference 3-11 again. Not 3-11, but in last place again. Even outside of conference play, I mean, they only picked up 3 more wins. They were 6-24 on the whole season. But yeah, I don't see Washington being that team. So let's go ahead and we'll check them off our list. Going to head over to the SEC where they have Georgia. Now, have a very, very talented player returning, Royce Anderson. But he couldn't do it alone. Last season, they finished conference again, just like Washington, 3-11. I don't see them necessarily finishing in last place again, but that has a lot to do with the incoming freshman Orion Toomey. I think that's a very, very good pickup for Georgia. He is going to be a menace down in the post. 7-11, 7-11. Wow, that'd be ridiculous. 7-1, 245. Bringing in just having that size, obviously he's going to create mismatches, but I think that is going to be a big addition for Royce Anderson. So do I think they're going to go from worst to significantly better? Not necessarily, but I do think that addition of Orion Toomey and even Zeke LaFleur could add a little bit to this team, but it's going to run through Royce. And Royce is going to make the determination on whether or not this team is going to make it far in the SEC. And again, I think they'll get better, but I don't see them being the shining star of the worst teams of SimWorld U Season 3. Next, going to slide over to the Big Ten. My Nittany Lions. 5-9 in Big Ten conference play last season. Oh, what do you say about them? What do I say about them every year? I really, really like SJO. Obviously, loved them in SimWorld Prep back when Tim Blarty was the coach. For him, they're another team that they just didn't add enough. Do I want to be biased and say they're not going to finish last? Absolutely. It really is going to depend on what they can get out of SJO. Nick Beal is there. Amaru Fiwu is there. But I don't see any of them, the incoming freshmen that they have coming in, which is 7 of them. That's a lot. This is a team that is building for the future, but with Vic, Marcus Lofton, SJO, Amar, Beal, there's talent there, but I don't know if it's talent to come anywhere near winning that Big Ten and pulling themselves out of the bottom. So I check them off the list too. So right now, what do we got? Georgia. Georgia's our leader for being the worst team going to the best team. I'm not going to spend too much time on Nevada out in the Mountain West. I talked about them a few weeks ago. Yeah, they're going to be battling for that final spot with the rest of the rest of everybody else in the Mountain West. But no, Nevada, Colorado State, and Boise State. One of them three teams are going to be last. Nevada went 2-12 last season in the conference, and I again just not seeing a whole lot from them, so not even going to talk about them anymore. TCU in the Big 12. Um, they are a squad, another 3-11. They were actually tied with Baylor in the Big 12 for worst record. And let's just starting with TCU, you look at their team and they have some players that I thought were extremely talented, specifically Nene Gibson. Nene Gibson, I think he had a lot of, well, he was one of those guys that I think a lot of us thought would be a hidden talent, but he progressed, not significantly, but he did progressively get worse in his time in SimWorld Prep. So I think it was more of hope for him to grow in his couple of seasons with SimWorld Prep. But they are another team where you look at what they brought in, and it's nothing that's really, again, moving the needle for me for TCU. So are they going to be battling it out with Baylor again for the worst record in the Big 12? You look at what they have. I love red. Love red. They're adding Dawn to that team. Aaron Payne is one of the, if not the best, I'll say one of the best defenders at center in all of SimWorld U. He is going to find a spot for himself in SWBA whenever it's time for him. But I do think that Baylor isn't going to be one of the worst teams in the Big 12. I specifically don't think that they're going to have a worse record than TCU next season, but I don't think they're going to make this significant jump either. But I do think they're going to be a little bit better with the additions that they brought in. Creighton, Creighton. You're looking at the Big East, another 3-11 team. I guess teams should say hopefully they make it to 3 wins, because that is the consensus here with most of them being 3-win teams. But Creighton in the Big East, it's the same story for every single one of these teams. Love Quan Singleton, think he's a solid player, but I think Tyler Montalvan, I think he could maybe help push them past the very, very worst spot. But I'm not one of those people that think one person in particular, unless they are a generational talent. And unfortunately, I don't think Tyler Montalvan is a generational talent. I just don't see that. I don't see them improving so much that I would bet on them not finishing in last place in the Big East. But again, another team not thinking they're gonna move too much out of the worst spot. Next, we got the American Conference. Richmond, 1 win. Oof, does it get any worse than that? Absolutely, it does. We know that it did. But for Richmond, they bring in Ty Murka, who is probably the biggest name that they're bringing into this squad. They have Chance Milton-Jones, who did phenomenal alongside SJO SimWorld Prep, but hasn't really shown. He needs to improve on his offensive side. He needs to improve on the offensive side for this team to really do anything. It's a team where is Harvard really going to do a whole lot? Is Temple really going to do a whole lot? Probably not. But I don't think that Richmond, just the addition of Ty Merca, I'm not expecting some amazing offensive explosion and lockdown defense all of a sudden from this Richmond squad that only won one game a season ago. Um, so Richmond, are they the team that's going to make it from worst to first? I think they're probably going to stay in that number uh, 10 position for the American Conference. Now we go to Syracuse. Everybody wants to talk about Syracuse. Are they going to are they going to win the ACC next season? No, probably not. I say that they probably will, but no. 0-14, 0-29 on the season. No one came close to them. The ACC is very deep. It's very, very deep from the top, from Virginia Tech to Duke, all the way down to Notre Dame and Wake Forest above them, above Syracuse. They bring in a ton of talent. Is this going to be like our old Kentucky teams with Coach Cal, where they bring in all this talent, but it never really meshes well in the tournament? Um, they're young. They're going to be young. I mean, you bring in five freshmen. You have Tompkins, who was a phenomenal player for the Originators this past SimWorld Prep season. They're bringing in JJ Hoops, Caleb Boateng, who was also a solid player for the Originators. Bringing in Kylan Johnson and Abdul Salamanca. All solid players. Are they going to start over the Mark Chisholms, the Ethan Lettermans? Uh, some of them might. I think if you were to put LaJoran Tompkins on the court over Mark Chisholm and uh, Ethan Letterman Jr., I don't think anybody's really going to scoff too much other than probably Mark Chisholm and Ethan Letterman. But the talent that he has, he has got to start right away. It's phenomenal talent. Again, is Syracuse going to go from worst to first? No. But as I said in the beginning of the video, no team is going to go from worst to first in SimWorld U Season 4. But you look at the team, you look at the coach, you see what kind of moves he's made, what he's done at the prep level. Does it always does your success always translate from one level to another? No. But all the talent that is brought in, if they don't win double digits, I'll be shocked. I think that they will. I won't say I'm shocked if they don't win double digits. Oh, sorry. Let's correct that. In the conference itself, I don't think they'll win double digits, but I do think overall they're going to be a double-digit team. I think that they're going to finish probably around sixth, maybe fifth in the conference. You have a lot of teams that there's just so many question marks, but you have some very talented players with like Virginia Tech, your Louisvilles, your Dukes, your Miamis. There's still tons of talent there that just they didn't show up on the court when it mattered most. And a lot of these teams didn't even necessarily truly play up to their potential. Obviously, Alabama won, so everything. So when your Dukes and your Virginia Techs, who Virginia Tech 12-2, Duke 11-3, when they don't win the entire tournament, something seems a little off. But yeah, so Syracuse, they're going to make the tournament. They're probably going to finish in the 5-6 range in their conference. They're probably going to get themselves, I think they'll be 500 or better, for sure. Definitely 500 or better. But that's just what Coach Drayton's going to bring to the team. I don't even necessarily think they needed to bring in as much talent as they did for the type of coach that he is. Talks a little too much for my liking, but I'm a very bland person, but all love for Coach Drayton. So I think, without a doubt, Syracuse, of all the teams that finished in last place last season, Syracuse is going to be by far the best team of all of it. I know people probably would think I was going to say something crazy. Uh, too late for that. Too late for that while I'm recording this. So, Coach Drayton, 500 team for Syracuse next season, making the tournament. Probably going to make a little bit of a splash, maybe making it through 1 or 2 rounds. But let me know what you guys think. Is there a team outside of Syracuse that you think can potentially go from worst to first, or do you think it's a done deal that it's going to be Syracuse and nobody else? Or do you think all of them are just going to suck? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys as always, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.